This video is brought to you by Ground News. Stick around to hear more about the special offer they're providing to the entire upper echelon community. All right, lately I've been pretty vocal about my skepticism of artificial intelligence. If we're being super precise here, I'm talking about LLMs, large language models, and general machine learning, because the ability for people to generate basically whatever they want to using a simple text prompt is going to have wide ranging impact on the rest of society. It's funny because people often tell me that I sound like one of those doomsayers on the street with a cardboard sign. They say, "Why are you so negative?" or "What's with the fear mongering? It's going to be fine." But when I look around at the full scope of what AI has become, what it's already doing, and how much further it's poised to go from here, I'm genuinely terrified. For starters, depression in the United States is reaching progressively higher numbers each and every year. Now, obviously, there's a multitude of factors in play for that to occur, but something we need to be aware of is that these depression rates, suicidality, negative body image, etc., significantly favor teenage girls. I say it favors them, but just to be clear, that's a bad thing in this context. According to Pew Research, teenage girls are significantly more likely to experience depressive episodes at a rate that has continuously risen since roughly 2009. Well, acknowledging that there's an army of additional factors on the table, something that has also gained prominence ever since 2009 is social media. In fact, the link between social media and depression is very, very well established. I've mentioned it numerous times in previous videos, so I won't harp on it here. And yet, despite all this, AI is now a core component of social media behavior. Hyper-realistic image-altering filters, used by practically every single platform now, are utilizing AI in a way that bridges the gap from something comedic, like cat ears or joke filters that have become sporadically popular over the years, to something imperceptible, or at least nearly imperceptible, with further advancements being made every single day. Example, this right here is the bold glamour filter on TikTok. It dramatically changes the user's appearance, even so far as to modify the visual structure of the face through depth, and it creates an appearance that is not indicative of reality in any sense of the word. Now, you can say, what's the big deal? People have been using filters for years, or how is this separate from makeup? But I would posit that yes, they have been doing those things for years, primarily teenage girls for that matter. And now AI is being used to modify these filters, making them increasingly hard to detect, thereby further divorcing the concept of reality from what you see online. Remember, social media has been linked to depression. Depression has been rising progressively for over a decade. And AI exacerbates everything wrong with social media when it comes to unrealistic body and beauty standards. Of course, that by itself is relatively easy to ignore. The primary audience of my channel is men, after all, ages 18 to 45. A lot of people will think, well, that doesn't affect me, so what does it matter? Why do I care? But the truth here is that any one of these problems branches out like a spider web. Unrealistic beauty standards or unrealistic behavior standards are an abstract concept for a lot of people. But what if I told you that the level of search interest, globally speaking, for AI girlfriends has exploded over the past 2 years? Some of you might laugh at that, which is fine. Other people think there's nothing wrong with it, but we need to consider what's happening in context. Loneliness has been declared an epidemic in the United States and multiple nations abroad. Japan, in particular, has been grappling with this. Some of you might already know, others may not, but hikikomori is what it's called, where severe, crippling social withdrawal leads to an inability for some to participate in general society. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make is that AI is simultaneously exacerbating the level of deception we face on social media every single day, worsening body image in teenage girls, and then providing a solution of sorts where genuine human interaction is replaced by a synthetic personality with unrealistic behavior and appearance, heavily favored by adolescent men, which is metaphorically pouring gasoline on a series of fires that previously certainly existed, but never reached the point of catastrophic consequence. See the problem? Well, that problem is something I've spoken about numerous times in the past, but with recent developments announced by OpenAI, that problem is about to become orders of magnitude greater because Sora, S-O-R-A, a text-to-video tool, is now approaching widespread availability. And when we remember that this is how far generative imaging AI has advanced in just 1 year, the idea of where text-to-video will be in 12, maybe 14 months should honestly terrify us. Information, how we find it, how we judge it, and what we trust or believe as a direct result is about to change dramatically, and that actually segues perfectly into today's video sponsor, Ground News. I vetted Ground News for about 6 months before agreeing to work with them, and I used the service for one particular reason: comparison. News about Sora is widespread, to say the very least, but Ground News gathers it all in one place with a clear system of marking bias, corporate ownership, and distribution of coverage. For this example, Sora, they've gathered 119 different articles where you can see that 40% of them lean left. You can compare headlines, find discrepancies, and make your own determinations on what to believe, because Ground News is a subscriber supported service that is primarily data driven, so that users can be the ones to think critically about what it is they read. Ground News helps cut through biased reporting. Most importantly, they don't tell you what to think, and they provide the necessary tools to help you navigate information better in a modern digital environment, which is a very valuable tool. If you click the link down below in the description to sign up right now, you'll get 40% off the Vantage plan. Again, link down below, ground.news/echelon for 40% off a Vantage plan today. Big thank you to Ground News for sponsoring the channel and for being a research tool that is used in the making of this video. This is the part where we talk about the future, and this is the part where it becomes very easy for people to brush off the warning. Sora is not currently capable of producing imperceptibly realistic videos. In fact, right now, it's pretty far from it. However, the speed at which these capabilities are advancing means that the option will exist, and it's probably going to exist in the very near future. Think about what that means in terms of connected dots. First and foremost, job displacement. That's already happening, by the way, in multiple separate industries, but think about how many more industries will be affected when you expand the capability to realistic video generation. Beyond that, think about the implications when it comes to online trust. Brand new research from Georgetown University and Stanford found that GPT-3 was just as persuasive as humans when it came to generating propaganda, and GPT-3 is literally obsolete now. Connecting back to the prior topic of social media, imagine the implications of hyper-realistic video generation when it comes to mental health and honesty, or imagine the effects it will have when integrated with AI girlfriends in a society that is already hindered by an epidemic of loneliness and distrust. I sit here and I'm quite literally terrified of the dystopian reality that we're actively building for ourselves, but for those of you that don't follow this channel very often, or at all for that matter, and haven't seen my prior videos on the subject, let me just do a sort of summary right now. In the future, the not too distant future, by the way, that we're kind of already actively in, you will lose the ability to know if anything you ever see online is real. You will be called on your phone by AI programs impersonating celebrities or politicians that have been specifically trained in human persuasion techniques and repurposed for political campaigning, among other things. That one's spinning up right now, by the way. You will be bombarded by hyper-targeted AI-driven advertising, which was generated on the fly using your digital fingerprint so that it's most effective. And the word privacy will effectively cease to exist. I mean, hell, with the right type of prompt exploitation, people are now getting personal information out of ChatGPT. Say what you want about the New York Times as an outlet or a publication, but the ability for someone to extract a list of real personal email addresses out of the program because they were scraped in the training data highlights an unbelievable number of risks. Now, I've said all this, but what happens when it really fucks up? What happens when we start relying on this new technology for pretty much every single consumer-driven industry, and it starts going off the rails? Answer: disaster happens. Here's a good example of this. A little while ago, ChatGPT had a stroke. I don't know how to phrase it properly or politically correctly, but it started spouting gibberish, sometimes threatening people, and just completely lost its senses for a few hours because we don't know why, and we probably never will know. Allowing programs like this to infiltrate human relationships, as well as further degrade the barrier between reality and fiction, isn't just short-sighted, it's self-destructive. The future is synthetic because programs will, and already do to an extent, govern our relationships, our spending habits, even our market economies. The first shoe to drop is celebrities. The tech isn't wildly common at a consumer level just yet because a lot of people don't have the actual mental desire to be competent with it right now. But celebrities have a huge fan base, and thus some of those fans are on the cutting edge of things. Example, Taylor Swift. Funnily enough, her getting targeted by AI-generated fake imagery spurs lawmakers, quote unquote. But the multitude of regular people out there who have and will continue to suffer from this doesn't even move the needle. However, as the adoption curve accelerates dramatically, I might add, more and more people will be able to just fabricate whatever they want, whenever they want, as more and more careers are reduced to the simple act of spot checking AI performance and managing an AI agent. It's not happening yet, at least not widespread, not to a degree where the ripple effects are impossible to ignore, but it's coming. In the end, the pace of advancement here is what's most concerning. A lot of mistakes we make as humans, at least historically speaking, take years, even decades to fully play out. I mean, we're making some of those mistakes right now and not accurately adjusting for them. But again, there's a long time in between when we make the mistake and when it basically destroys us. However, the speed at which we are accelerating our use of technology that is now fundamentally damaging to the very fabric of how we socialize as humans it's just almost completely unchecked, with very few levers of power to slow it down, aside from the now seemingly archaic self-absorbed wheels of political power, which are not exactly reliable. People say I'm a doomer or a pessimist, but I can't help but talk about this stuff when all I seem to see is a spiderweb of connections where the most recent This Week in Tech article is actually a foreshadowing early warning sign of what's to come. And if we look at the past, I don't know, 8 or so years, what's to come is not utopian ideals and removal of scarcity. The Star Trek lie is one that makes us believe more technology will necessarily usher in some sort of paradise-esque society. But the Star Trek lie assumes that human nature itself will fundamentally change. Complex new tools for generating indistinguishable yet fake audiovisual content would be fine if a certain demographic didn't use them to then produce an unchecked and unlimited amount of propaganda or other deceptive content. Even beyond the simple bad actors that spoil the bunch type revelation, or the fucking idiotic idea that we'll make more AI to regulate the first AI so the dangerous AI will be regulated by additional AI that's better. Like, I can't even fucking deal with those people. Replacing the very fabric of human interaction with synthetic alternatives is a one-way ticket to general dysfunction. We can do the whole mental contortionist thing and pretend like that's not the case, as if somehow replacing genuine human interaction with AI girlfriends and therapists and faking our appearance in every conceivable way will then strengthen society. But deep down, I think we all understand that's just simply not true. The key difference is some of us are so profit motivated and short sighted, we're open to the pursuit of that world simply for some sort of perceived personal gain. People are proposing to the AI girlfriends. I talked about parasocial relationships at one point, but influencers are creating AI imitations of their personality and then letting their fans date them while making millions from it. Replica AI, originally advertised as a mental health application, by the way, was created with the express intention, acknowledged by its founder, of breaking down the barrier between human and program with the end game of normalizing relationships between them. It's hard to describe just how quickly the concept of sacrificing actual human contact in favor of talking to a large language model is accelerating, and what do we reasonably think the downstream ramifications of that are going to be in a world where crippling loneliness is an evolving problem. Please, AI bros, explain this one to me like I'm 5. Please, come on. Anyway, obviously, I am firmly of the mindset that AI is a net negative for society. There are applications that are good. Yes, you can talk about AI scanning of x-rays to predict medical problems, et cetera, et cetera. Like, there are arguments that you can make for applications of AI that are very, very good and beneficial. I'm not saying there aren't. I'm just saying that the net negatives outweigh the positives. However, I can't exactly do anything about it, so I rant about it here on YouTube. Pretty soon, we're going to see the emergence of a stronger anti-AI movement, by the way, when it comes to prioritizing businesses that only use human labor and human-made products. But how that shapes up will be a separate video when the time comes. That's it. If you want to support, we have a brand new dedicated merchandise line on the channel. It's linked down below and should also now be displaying on the videos themselves. Pre-orders are open for the spring collection and more designs will come out over time. Also, if you want a VPN, protect yourself online, of course, there's a link to that too, as well as the video sponsor, Ground News, for helping cut through the world of biased news reporting, and Locals, Patreon, etc., monthly subscriptions. You get the idea. That's it. As always, question everything and have a nice night.